Hi everyone, this is Walking Problem. US Vice President Kamala Harris' trip from Singapore to Vietnam is delayed for 3 hours over what is called anomalous health incident in Hanoi. So this is kind of weird. So let's read this article quickly. A flight from Singapore to Vietnam by the US Vice President Kamala Harris was delayed on Tuesday, which is today, following an unexplained health incident in Hanoi, say the US Embassy in Vietnam. I'm actually in Singapore, so we were actually in the same country, and I believe I saw her plane flew past me just a few hours ago, in the dark actually. Harris, who was in Singapore conducting a 3-day trip due to fly to Hanoi, but unexpectedly delayed for 3 hours due to an anomalous health incident. So the anomalous health incident is a term the US government often uses to describe the Havana Syndrome, a condition with symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, migraine, and memory lapse, and so named because it was first reported by a US official based in the US Embassy in Cuba in 2016. So the Vice President's office was made aware of the report of the recent possible anomalous health incident in Hanoi, and after careful assessment, the decision was made to continue the trip. So the spokesperson for Harris declined to comment on the reason for the delay, and this article is actually by Reuters. The Sun reported largely similar things, but they expanded a bit. So they say that about 100 CIA officers and family members are among the 200 US officials and kin stricken by the Havana Syndrome, the CIA Director William Burns has said. The US National Academy of Sciences panel in December found that a possible theory is that directed energy beams cause the syndrome, he said, and the strong possibility that the syndrome is intentionally caused by Russia. Of course, Russia. Everything is Russia. So of course, Moscow denies the involvement. And so I'm not going to read the below part because this part is talking about Afghanistan, and they were like, everyone is pissed that Kamala Harris is not visiting Afghanistan. And truth to be said, even if she's going to go to Afghanistan, they are not going to report it. And given the situation in Afghanistan, there's no reason for her to go, because US forces is not really in control of the country, and they're probably only in control of the airport. And for the vice president to only be at the airport, I think the plane will be shot down. So I don't think she'll be going at all. It's not safe for her. Let's read about what is Havana Syndrome on the Wikipedia. So Havana Syndrome is a set of medical signs and symptoms reported by the United States and Canadian embassy staff in Cuba, dating back to the late 2016, and then subsequently in other countries including United States, Austria, and Germany. In 2017, Donald Trump accused Cuba of perpetrating an unspecific attack causing this symptom. So the US reduced the staff at the embassy in response, and US diplomats in China reported problems similar to those reported in Cuba, as did undercover CIA agents working in other countries with partner agencies to counter Russian covert operations. So they say that subsequent studies found evidence that the diplomats experienced some form of brain injury. They are unable to determine the cause. There was no expert consensus on the cause of the symptoms. So it's definitely, if it's going to be human cause, then it's likely to be something really new, something high tech, that there's not enough scientific material and research on it. So energy beam weapon sounds likely. So if you go to Medicine Net, they describe the same thing. So the series of debilitating symptoms, which means it actually this kind of disabled them. First affected US intel officers and embassy staffers in Cuba. So then after that, it was reported all around the world, which means Trump's accusation that is done by the Cubans are unlikely, because Cuba do not have the means to attack US assets all around the world. So the perpetrators is definitely going to be a country or an organization that have a global reach and have enough intelligence to know who are the undercover agents. So if they say that the agents is targeting Russians, then maybe Russians could be. So symptoms similar to those of concussion or mild head injury. They hear a loud piercing sound at night and felt intense pressure in the face. Pain, nausea, dizziness followed. The sound stopped, so it does sound like a kind of energy weapon. But my personal feeling is that this is not really very Russian kind of way of doing things. So Russian espionage tends to focus, they are a lot more elegant. They target more towards getting information or assassination. They usually do not do covert attacks. If you look at it this way, Russia is not really a threat to the United States today. The overlapping interest is actually reducing by the day, with the US forces withdrawing from the Middle East. It's unlikely that Russia have any motivations or there's anything to gain by doing this kind of attacks. Russia is not really the adversary that is clashing with the Americans nowadays. The one that is actually clashing actively with America is actually China, and this sounds a lot like how China would operate. China is extremely adept at espionage operation, and they are very willing to do outrageous things through their agents when they are overseas. They can even do kidnapping, assassinations, information gathering, influence operation, and to do covert attacks is possible. And this could be a retaliation against what Kamala Harris has said while she was in Singapore over the past 3 days. So you can read on the Newsweek. So China hits back at Kamala Harris, rebuilt with American first jibe. So let's take a quick read of this article. China took a dig at the United States over the situation in Afghanistan on Tuesday, which is today, after Vice President Kamala Harris criticized Beijing during her tour of Southeast Asia. So what Kamala Harris did was that she was saying China is a destabilizing force in the region, and the United States is actually here to secure the peace and safety of the countries in this region. Kamala Harris say that China broke international laws and go against international rulings over the South China Sea, and this actually placed Singapore in a very awkward position. And so let's read on. Harris is headed for Vietnam ahead of meetings with top officials in Hanoi, but in a speech before departing Singapore on Tuesday, today, she offered her strongest rebuke yet of what she described as Chinese government's coercion and intimidation in the South China Sea. So Beijing's action continues to undermine the rule-based order and threaten the sovereignty of nations. She said, the United States stands with our allies and partners in the face of these threats. However, this actually puts Singapore in a very difficult position. In addition, this is considered her most important foreign policy speech since taking office. So Singapore is very keen to welcome Kamala Harris to Singapore because during the Trump administration, Trump's administration is actually very lukewarm to Southeast Asia. Maybe because there's a trade imbalance that Trump don't really like. So maybe Trump don't really like that. Even with Singapore, Singapore do not even have a proper ambassador during Trump's administration in Singapore's US embassy. So Singapore is very keen to strengthen the relationship with United States. With this new administration, Singapore in a way is not really a military ally for the United States, and Singapore is very keen not to be seen as one by China. And her speech in Singapore is very anti-China, and this puts Singapore in a very precarious position, and this also definitely made China really unhappy. And the kind of statement that Kamala Harris put in Singapore definitely reinforced the position that Biden's administration have against China. And it could be possible that for China, if they are the ones that have this energy weapons that cause the Havana Syndrome, it's very likely that they will want to botch this trip for Kamala Harris. In a way, this is not really a Southeast Asian tour because she's only going to 2 countries. Technically, it's just a Singapore-Vietnam tour, and I'm not sure what's so good about only Singapore and Vietnam. because for the North Korean meetings is also Singapore and Vietnam. So I believe that this is likely. As you can see, entire story have nothing to do with Russia. She coming to Singapore is not a Russian interest thing. Talk about South China Sea is nothing to do with Russia as well. And she's going to go to Hanoi, which is just next to China. So China is definitely, you know, very unhappy about what Kamala Harris trip brings, and the kind of messaging that she's bringing to the region and to the countries that China is trying to influence to their side. So we will see what's to come in Hanoi, and this is Walking Problem signing out.